Woo, man. One of my favorite builds finds its way back to me. This is one of the first candy painted builds that I did for a good buddy of mine. And he had a little issue. He'd been running it for a good little while on his mobile. Been enjoying it. He got a little candy painted driver. He's driving into it. And he bought himself a Y-mote a couple of months ago. Not too long ago. He's been running that as well with no problems. And all of a sudden, he had a little issue. Had some smoke rolling out in the back. I told him, well, get that thing down to me as quick as you can, man, so we can get that figured out and get it back up there to you so you can get it back in operation. Well, I figured out what it was, Mr. Andy. And I tell you what, man, I have just had problems with these things before. I've recently switched to a different part, and I'm not having those problems anymore. This is what happened. This is the regulator for the fan. Now, I've seen these things cause problems before in the past when they would blow. These things can be nasty, man. They really can. And to be 100% honest with you, you really don't even need one since you're running this mostly mobile operation. So what I went ahead and done is just went with the normal resistor I put on fans when they're not going to be being ran on like an unregulated supply. And I mean, this still can be ran on an unregulated supply. It's going to drop the voltage just fine. It's just, you know, the fan slows down when you key because the voltage drops. And as you know, we've already had a problem with one already, and this is the second one that I sent you. And these specific parts right here are STs. They're ST 7812s, and I have had issues with these. This is about the fourth or fifth one. I just recently out of a recommendation by Mr. 073, he told me you need to go try one of them oh god, don't tell me my brain's gonna sit here and it's the company that Radio Shack, NTE, Nancy Tango Echo, NTE 12 volt regulator. Well, I bought me a bag of them, and so far I've had no issues with them. So I'm not using these STs anymore, actually. So, but just so we be sure we won't have no problems anymore, brother, I just went ahead and hardwired you in with a resistor there. To a current limiting resistor for that fan. Well, let me show you what this thing did. When this regulator blew, it shorted out the ground and the wire going to the relay, because that's what it's hooked up to. You know, when you turn it on, the fan gets power, which means the regulator gets power, and then the fan gets power. And I want you to know, it burnt that Teflon, man. This Teflon was under the board, but so I wouldn't have to take all this out, man. There's really no need to. I just put it on top of the board now, but this whole wire right here was under the board hidden, and it literally just burned that wire all the way down to the remote jack right here, and attempted to go down the plug to the Y-mote, but luckily I fuse all of my Y-motes. I fuse all of my Y-motes and my wired remotes. I personally believe anything that has a wire going from the source out certain links to the load or wherever it's operating at needs to be fused. These boxes need to be fused under the hood. Under the hood's the best place for them to be fused at. Pretty much all of your wired remotes do not have fuses in them. I have had an issue with that before. I made myself a remote 4 or 5 years ago. I put it in a little plastic case, hooked it up to my little 4-pill I bought off eBay, and was using it, a couple of weeks. For some reason, one day, I turned that thing on, and that goddamn wire starts just blowing. Fire just starts rolling down that wire, man. Smoke, all the way to the back. I seen it when it was happening. I jumped out that car, man, and unplugged that thing, burnt my fingers. And what had happened was the ground and the positive somehow seared together. I don't know where it happened at, but that's another reason why I always make sure to give an extra ground on these plugs to the board, especially since I sell WiMotes, wireless remotes, because they have to have a ground to work. A lot of times people just rely on this, the outside of this plug, of this 1/4-inch jack against the case for a ground. And yeah, once you torque that thing on there and it's against it good, it's a good ground. Yes, it is. But over time, what happens when that bolt starts to loosen over time? Then the ground's not going to be there. Or it's going to be there a little bit and not there. And you know what happens when something has a halfway ground? You can have issues. You can have issues. So I just go ahead and run a ground from all of my plugs to the board to be safe. I fuse my wire remote controls for my amps, and I definitely fuse my WiMotes for this reason. If this WiMote did not have a fuse in it, I would be making you another WiMote right now, Andy. But thank God it does have a fuse in it, so it saved that WiMote when this happened. So here's a prime example. These regulators, boy, they nasty too when they burn, man. So it ain't really nobody's fault. I guess it's the you buy these parts, man. Some even STs. A lot of ST, it's a name brand, but a lot of them come from China, and that you don't know the quality control of the parts. When they're making them parts on whatever, they test them parts, and whatever parts doesn't test, a lot of times they don't throw them away. They get sold for cheaper and get pushed on, eBay or other places. And, you just really don't know what you're getting sometimes. That's why when you find somebody that you can trust, and you can find people you can trust on eBay, but when you do, you need to hold on to them. It's just the way it goes. So we got that wired back up for you, Andy, man, and no pills were blown, nothing like that. Everything was good to go. One thing I did do, I'm going to go ahead and bring this up too. I've noticed these 3-pole double throw relays here. Even Stickman pointed it out to me one day. The ohms of these relays are a little different than some of our double pole double throws that we use. And I noticed in barefoot, when you're barefoot with the box off, you had a little bit of reflect. Yes, with the box off. The reason why that can be, man, the RF's coming in and it's going through a relay, going through a jumper, coming back in and going back out. Well, it's going through that relay. See, you see what I'm saying? So that's what I'm talking about, the actual ohms of the relay. And just that issue there can throw the induction off, this and that off, to where your 50 ohms is coming in, but you might have 38 or 44, or 62 coming out. You just don't know. But when that happens, you have a reflect barefoot, and a lot of people are like, well, what does it matter if you don't have the box on? Once you turn the box on, that's gone. What does it matter? Well, I'll tell you when it matters. For example, let's say you're running this box right here, or any box, and let's say it's a driver or something. You turn that box off, and let's say you want to run a bigger radio or something into your big box. Well, now that radio's flowing through this box to get to the big box. Well, that little bit of reflect right there is going to carry itself to that big box, and whatever reflect that big box has on its input, it's going to add together. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, you might only have a half a watt right there. This might be making a half. Now you got a 1 watt. You know what I'm saying? So it's best just, that's something I've started doing recently. And as you see, I guess I just didn't pick up that when I done this build. Hey man, I'd rather be honest than not. You know, it's one of them things that's not a big deal, but still it's best to cross all your T's and dot all your I's, or as my brother says, cross all your I's and dot all your T's. All right, I will demonstrate that too. We are barefoot. Doot, doot, doot. Ooh. It was swinging to about a 1/4 watt of reflect. Not quite a half, but about a 1/4 watt of reflect. Doot, doot. See, I just threw a little trimmer in there on that rail. I tuned it in. I mic'd it in. That's what that little cap down there for. That's not the output tuning cap. That's the output tuning cap. Alright, bud. Let's go ahead and get this thing hooked up. I'm going to demonstrate the Y mode running on the servo. There's no regulation in that Y mode. I'm not going to run that off the unregulated supply. So I'm going to get this top on here, hook it up, show you that the Y mode's working, and hook a little driver to it, man. See what this thing's doing just for the fun of it. Alrighty. As Mr. Andy says, the beautiful orange crush. This box was painted by my painter to literally match his car. One of his prized vehicles he owns, to the color code of his car. Even threw a little orange LED in there for him to match everything up. Alright, I'll grab this remote out of the old stash there and programmed it to the Y mode. That's the neat thing about these modules. You can actually program up to 20 remotes. I don't know why you'd want to, but you can. You know, you could, for example, if you get one of these Y modes, you can say, hey, gatekeeper, can I get 2 or 3, you know, backup remotes or whatever, and you know, and you can just have them for backup just in case you lose one. So, you know, you can't beat that. Alrighty, turn her on. So there you go, brother. The Y mode is working. God, that is beautiful. I love that orange on orange. It's just, you know, it's something, you see blue all the time, you know what I mean, and other colors, but you don't see much orange like this. And as you know, it's hard to find 120 millimeter LED fans with orange LEDs in them. That's why I had to add these in here myself. If I ever get some free time, do stuff like that and put them up for sale on eBay, because that is a void that needs to be filled, man. There's a lot of people wanting other colors than just, you know, blue, red, and green and white. You know, people want other colors, and that's one color that's hard to find. And if you do find it, it's fairly expensive. I know I couldn't find one. All right, man. I'm gonna go ahead and unhook the Y mode. And get this thing hooked up to the unregulated supply and hook a driver up to it. We'll be back. Alrighty. I went ahead and picked the old dual 1446 box because I don't think I used that driver in the last video I did after the build. Hey Andy, you ever seen a 4-pill do 400 bird on 13.8 volts? It'll happen. I'll show you. Alright. I've got the driver turned down, as you see, a little bit less than halfway, basically to get this dead key about 100 bird. 100 watts dead key, sorry. That's putting, about 80 RMS. It's quite a little hot. It's a little hot, but that produces About 100 watts dead key. 400 watts. Take a look at the voltage drop. 13.7 volts. See? It'll do it, man. The reason why it is because of that extra drive. Alright. Let's just see what this bad boy can really do. We're going to put this thing up on the high tap. Get this thing a full 100 amps plus of current if it wants it. Right there it was running off about 60, 70. See what this orange crust can do. I'm just going to burp it, Andy. I ain't going to stay on the key, bud. I ain't going to stay on the mall now, Captain Becky. I ain't going to do that to you now. I'm just, driver's on 14.6. Let's rock and roll. Right there about 520. 15.4 volts. PEP in the corner. Just for the fun of it, Andy. You see me turn that off. I'm doing that just to keep that voltage off that fan, just to be extra safe, bro. Let me find my 2500 watt slug. There it is. See what this thing is doing. Peak real quick. This is equivalent to pretty much your normal 2x4 setup. Because as you see, I've got the driver turned down less than halfway. So that's pretty much working like, you know, two good 2290s. Alright, we got a 2500 watt slug in. So we're reading the top scale. Where that 10 is, that's 1000 watts. PEP. Okay, you got the peak on. Alright. God almighty. Tell me, what's that? Let's see. 10, in between 10 and the 15. That is 1250. 1250 watts PEP. Oh, by the way, Andy, I changed a little something inside, man. Gained about 80 bird. We'll see. Anybody have anything you need done, give me a holler. Wire motes are still $35 a piece. That's the same price as everybody else's wired remotes. I mean, you just flat out can't beat that price. Anything wireless should be a little more, but for now, I'm just going to keep it like that. The more of these that go out, I'm doing about 1 or 2 a week right now. I'd like to be doing 5 to 10 a week if I could, but everybody don't need remotes, and you know, people don't need them in large quantities. Wire motes are working. I've been using them for about 2 or 3 years now. I have not had one sent back to me for a repair or anything. I always like to ask everybody to see how it's going for them, and I've got nothing but good reports. But the only thing I can notice so far is maybe an LED going out or something, you know, but that can happen to anyone. So far so good with them. They're working well. Mr. Gatekeeper out here around the northeast end of Georgia. 73's, God bless. I want to give a shout out to my buddy out there in Florida. Jigga Man. Jigga, jigga, jigga. Hey, Jigga Man, appreciate you, big brother. Let's get that HG8 pill done. We gone. Bye-bye.